Alright, what's going on, everybody? So today we're gonna be going over SMT again. I know the last video we had some music going over it, right? We did go over everything about Dow theory, so this has to do with Dow theory, but basically I understand you guys would not have grasped it very much enough, and I'm pretty sure you guys would have missed the whole concept of that. So in this video we're going to be going over pretty much the main idea of what we focus on with Dow theory. We aren't trading Dow theory, but we are using something inside of Dow theory to our own advantage, and that is the smart money tool, also known as an SMT. Alright, so every SMT will occur with every start of every retracement, reversal, and expansion move. Okay, so remember that, guys. Every time a retracement happens or starts, every time a reversal happens and starts, and every time an expansion happens and starts, an SMT will occur. So, smart money tool or technique. A tool to find a cracking correlation between correlated assets. And this can be an example just like NASDAQ and ES, or Euro USD and DXY. An SMT will look something like this, where you have one market creating a higher high and a lower high and a higher high, and one will be creating a higher high and a lower high here. So one creates a higher high, one creates a lower high, one creates a higher high here, one creates a lower high here, and the one that created the higher high is technically sweeping liquidity in this example, which is buy side liquidity, which will translate over to the other market, which will sweep liquidity on this market even though it actually didn't. It already swept it on the other market because they're both correlated assets. So because it swept on this market, that will translate over to sweeping on this market, and the market does not need to sweep buy side liquidity again on this market. Okay. So interlinked markets. Interlinked basically means they're correlated. They have a connection with two markets together. They're correlated. That means they should have some type of connection between the two. So there are two types of interlinked markets. There are linear and inverse correlated markets. Okay, so a linear interlinked market is correlated assets that should be moving in the same direction. That means if one market is going up, the other should be going up. One market is going down, the other should be going down. An inverse interlinked market is correlated assets that should be moving in the opposite direction. That means if one market is going up, the other one should be going down. If one is going down, the other one should be going up. It's opposite. So one type of interlinked markets or correlated assets is that they're moving in the same direction. Another type is that if they are inversed, they are moving in the opposite of each other. So one is moving in the same direction, one is moving in the opposite of each other. Alright. Now, let's go on to our SMT tool that we want to be focusing on. We want to be focusing on a thing called a divergence, okay? So a divergence is when correlated assets has a crack in strength in one market and not the other to anticipate a reversal bound to come. Now I know you guys are reading this like, what the fuck does that mean? Okay, so what I mean by this is one market will be stronger than the other. And because one market is stronger than the other, a divergence will occur. So if we're looking at interlinked markets, both markets are going in the same direction. One market will create a higher high, one will create a lower high. The one that created that higher high is the one that was stronger, the one that created the lower high, because it swept buy side liquidity creating that higher high, and it didn't create that higher high on the other market. So because of that, this would be the stronger one. Now just because this is the stronger one, that doesn't mean, oh, we should be trading on this market or not this market. No, that just means a reversal is bound to come. When we see one being stronger than the other and one creates a higher high, one creates a lower high, a reversal is about to happen. So we can anticipate this by finding that SMT, taking that sweep of buy side liquidity and translating over to this market, and then finding a setup from there to be bearish. So anytime you have an SMT or an SMT divergence at the highs, this will be known as a bearish SMT. This would be known as a bearish SMT. Anytime you have an SMT at the lows, one creates a lower low here, one creates a higher low here. This market is stronger than this market, creating a crack in correlation between these two markets. This sweep of sell side liquidity translates over to this market, sweeping sell side liquidity on this, even though we actually didn't. So we don't need to sweep sell side on this market because we already swept it on this market. So because we have this SMT on these two interlinked markets here, which are linear, we can find a setup to be bullish. So anytime you have a SMT at the highs, one creates a higher high, one creates a lower high. This is known as a bearish SMT. Anytime you have an SMT at the lows, one creates a lower low, one creates a higher low. This is known as a bullish SMT. Bearish SMT at the highs, bullish SMT at the lows. Bearish SMT at the highs, bullish SMT at the lows. Alright. Another type of divergence is an interlinked divergence with inverse markets. Alright. So this is when you have two markets that are going in the opposite of each other, right? These two markets will be a confirmation for these two markets. Okay, you don't want to use this SMT as a confirmation unless an SMT occurs with these. Okay, so once you have interlinked markets like this that are linear and they have a cracking correlation at the highs, you want to see if you have a cracking correlation in opposite direction of this, and if you do, that is an added confluence. Okay, so this is when you create a higher high on one market and the other market is creating a higher low. If they were interlinked and they would be moving in the same direction, this market should have created a lower low, not a higher low. Because this one created a higher high, we should have created a lower low here, but we didn't. So because of that, this market is stronger than this market, and that is an inverse interlinked divergence, or SMT. Okay, so this is an added confluence on top of this. So what we want to look for a reversal, expecting or anticipating a reversal to come, is we want to be paying attention to these linear assets that are going to have an SMT at the highs or an SMT at the lows to find a reversal that is about to happen. So this is an example here. This is a bearish SMT. We have S&P 500 here, which is ES, and we have NASDAQ 100, which is NQ on future indices. All right. So you have an SMT at the highs, which is a bearish SMT. We sweep liquidity on S&P. We do not sweep liquidity on NASDAQ. This is creating a lower high here and a higher high here on S&P. So because we created that higher high on S&P and we swept liquidity on S&P, that means this buy side liquidity sweep will be translated over to a buy side liquidity sweep on NASDAQ, even though we actually didn't sweep any buy side here. Now, because of this happening, what do we see on both markets? Market dumps here. It fucking dumps here. It has a fat dump right here. So we can anticipate this happening on both markets because we have this SMT here. And in this SMT, we can find some sort of setup for us to translate over into taking a short setup here to expect this reversal. Same thing at the lows. You see we create a lower low on NASDAQ, and this is the Dow. All right, these are two interlinked markets with each other. The three interlinked futures indices markets is going to be NASDAQ, the Dow, also known as US 30, and ES, which is S&P 500. So because of that, those three interlinked markets will have correlation with each other, and they should be moving in the same direction. But in this instance, because we have an SMT divergence at the lows here, one creates a lower low, one creates a higher low. This is a bullish SMT, so we can expect a reversal about to come. And what do we get? We get that bullish reversal here. So we could have caught a long entry here, something on the lower time frames. But when you spot these SMTs, you want to be focusing on your basic concepts after you spot that SMT. You spot a bullish SMT. What's the next thing you want to look for? You want to look for that market structure shift. You want to be looking for some displacement towards the upside over that recent swing high. You want to see displacement. You want to see that big impulse higher. Same thing if you were bearish, right? You want to see that big impulse to the downside. You want to find that market structure shift. So when you are paying attention to SMTs, you're going to go back to square root one, and you're going to be looking at basic confluences, market structure, PD raise. You're going to be looking at basic stuff. Why? Because that is what is going to form your setup for you. Okay, so once you spot this bullish SMT, or once you spot this bearish SMT here, right, you're going to be focusing on the basic concepts. You're going to be looking for your market structure shift. After that, you're going to be looking for that fair value gap right before the displacement happens. Okay, so we're going to look at an example here for this bearish setup here. All right, so with this bearish setup, we create our 15-minute bearish SMT divergence right here, right? That's an indication for us that a reversal could possibly happen here, but we don't know for sure without that trading model setup for us that we get with displacement. Okay, so we want to see displacement through a swing low. So let's look at an example here. 15-minute time frame here, right? We got our bearish SMT here. We swept on ES, but we didn't sweep on NQ. So that ES sweep, we swept on ES, that translate over to a buy side liquidity sweep on NASDAQ. So because of that, if we can drop down to the 5-minute time frame, which is 3 time frames lower, 15 divided by 3 is 5-minute time frame. We swept on ES. That's the first step of our 2022 model, right? 2022 model, we sweep on ES. That's our first step on the 15-minute time frame. 5-minute time frame, what do we get here? This is our swing low right here. We get our market structure shift here. We get displacement through this low here. After we get displacement through that low, what do we get here? We have a 5-minute SIBI right here. 5-minute SIBI right here. That is our fair value gap. Our entry will be at the open of the gap, stop loss above the swing high or above this candle's high wick, and then we would trade it down all the way down to probably sell side. Okay, we would trade it down all the way to sell side liquidity and probably take a partial here and then leave a runner for the rest to go. Okay, so this is how we would anticipate a 2022 model setup using SMT divergences. Okay, we got our SMT here, right? That's a sweep of liquidity on S&P 500 that translates over to NASDAQ. This will be our sweep of liquidity. That's our first step. Second step, market structure shift. We get displacement through this low, creating a fair value gap right here. That's our entry right there. Open of the gap, entry on the open of the gap. Stop loss above the high or above this candle's wick. Taking that all the way down to sell side liquidity here, or here, taking a partial on both or one of these swing lows probably, and then leaving a runner all the way down, taking us for a winning trade right here. So this is how we anticipate our 2022 model. Liquidity sweep, market structure shift, fair value gap. Liquidity sweep, market structure shift, fair value gap. And another way we could have seen this is using an inverse fair value gap instead of our SIBI. So if we take a look here, we have an inverse BISI right here. So this BISI gets ran through getting disrespected. Once we disrespect this BISI, we get displacement through this low, creating our inverse fair value gap setup. Now we can use this 2022 model with this inverse fair value gap, trading up into the inverse now, entering on the inverse instead of our SIBI. Now if you guys prefer using the inverse setup rather than a SIBI, then that's totally up to you, but this is then in the inverse fair value gap setup. Same setup, just switching the SIBI with an inverse fair value gap. And you guys can use this setup as well if you desirable to it. Now, this is super simple when you get the hang of it, but this is basically a 2022 model just with an SMT. Now, if you guys don't get that sweep of liquidity here, right, on NQ, which you guys did not, you would probably miss out on this whole move right here, this whole bearish leg, this whole distribution leg right here. But because of that, you missed the whole distribution leg. You guys can come back, review what you could have done better, and you can see that the SMT is what you could have done better. You could have spotted the SMT beforehand, translated the sweep of buy side liquidity on ES onto NASDAQ to then translate that sweep into creating a 2022 model setup for yourself. Now, the SMT gets kind of confusing for a lot of new people trying to dabble into ICT concepts, but when you get the hang of it, it is a super strong confluence, it's a super strong confirmation, and it's a really good tool to use in your arsenal for your edge so that you can start winning and also understand the market better without having the risk of not understanding the concepts that you're learning. Because the SMT is pretty much one of the pretty much fundamental structures of ICT concepts, it's very important to learn it. But without understanding basic concepts like market structure and P theories, the SMT will be pretty much useless to you. That's why when you are using SMTs, That's why I am saying when you find that SMT, you need to go back to finding market structure, basic market structure, advanced market structure, intermediate term market structure. You need to go back to that. Once you find that SMT, you want to see displacement in the intended direction that you want. You find a bearish SMT, you need a bearish displacement. You need to displace to the downside. Once you get that, what do you focus on next? Basic PD rays, fair value gaps, inverse fair value gaps, right? You want to be looking at basic PD rays. You don't want to be doing all these advanced concepts when you can't even understand the basic fundamentals, which are going to be your market structure and PD rays. So everything that is advanced with ICT concepts, you have to understand the basics first. Without the basics, it's pretty much useless having an SMT. Alright? So understand the SMT, go back to the basic concepts like market structure, and then jump back up into basic concepts for PD rays for your entry. Liquidity sweep, market structure, fair value gap. That is the 3 steps for a 2022 model. You don't get that sweep of liquidity, look for an SMT. If you don't get a sweep of buy side liquidity and you're trying to find a bearish 2022 model, go on to S&P 500, go on to Dow, and see if you get a crack in correlation with NASDAQ. And figure that out for yourself. You guys need to backtest this for yourself to see if this SMT actually works. And you will see for yourself that the SMT definitely does work. You guys just need to experience it for you guys self. Alright? Now, with ES, with NASDAQ, right? An SMT will not 100% occur every single time a reversal happens. But I am pretty much confident that 95 to 99% of the time an SMT will occur. Not 100% of the time will an SMT occur, but when you get that SMT before a reversal happens, that is super high confluence that the market is about to reverse on you and you're about to get a significant expansion move to either the upside or the downside for yourself. And what you can do is start to form a 2022 model for yourself, which is the most basic model in your arsenal right at this moment. And now you have 2 models. You can use a fair value gap or an inverse. So you have 2 models in your arsenal that you can use for an entry, which would be an inverse model or a 2022 model. Alright? And just like that, you can understand where the market could possibly reverse at by understanding SMT divergences. Alright? Other than that, I hope you guys found this video very helpful, and I hope you guys can use this video to then backtest and see evidence for your guys' self that this actually does work, okay? Other than that, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you guys later.